Hi, hello everyone. So today we're going to look at trigonometry. So we're going to start with Pythagoras' theorem. Pythagoras, and it's on page 16 of your log tables. Okay, and it's very simple. It's a very simple one. Okay, so you can imagine if I take a right angle triangle. Right angle triangle, and you can imagine it has three sides. Let's call them A, B, and C. And those three sides are those letters represent the lengths of those three sides. Okay, well, Pythagoras says that if you take the length of the longest side, and the longest side is always opposite the right angle. Okay, and it's also opposite the biggest side, which in a right angle triangle will always be the 90 degrees. So you take the longest side and you square its length. It's equal to the sum of the lengths of the other two sides squared. Okay, so that's it in its basic form. Okay, now in reality, what you're going to use this for is to find the missing side if you know the other two. So if you look at this very carefully, if I didn't know A, but I knew the other two, then I would just go, so that's your generic formula. If I wanted to find A, then I would just leave A on its own, and to get rid of the square on this, I would square root the other two sides. But you notice what's happening. If the longest side is missing, you're basically squaring the other two sides and adding them. Okay, and I'll do an example in a second. Whereas, if one of the other two sides, let's say B or C is missing, let's say B is missing, well then B would be equal to the square root of the other sides subtracted from each other. But obviously you put the bigger number first rather than the smaller number. So it's always going to be longest minus the other side if B or C is missing. And similarly, if C is missing, it's just going to be A squared minus B squared. So it's always going to be, if you want the longest side, you add the other two sides squared and root the answer. If it's one of the other sides, this one or this one that's missing, you subtract the square of the longest from the square of the side you know, and get the square root of the answer. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of this just to show you. Okay, so I'm going to draw some quick triangles because I don't want to spend all day drawing triangles. So let me find some quick triangles to draw. So I'll draw one here, and I'll draw another one here. Okay, so here's two quick triangles. Let's put our right angles in, and let's say that this side is missing on this one, and this side is missing on this one. Okay, and let's say I know that this is 12 and this is 5, and let's say I know that this is 3 and this is 5. Well then, how would I find the missing side in both of these cases? Well, in this case, I'm missing the longest side. So according to my rule, if I'm missing the longest side would be equal to the square root of the sum of the squares of the other two sides. The sum, and that's important. The sum of them, add them. In this case, use your calculator, the square root, and you're no problem using, if you want to use brackets as well, plus, squared 13. So the longest side there is 13. In this case, I know the longest side. So if I want to find the missing side, if I know the longest side, it's going to be the exact same, except this is going to be a minus. So in this case, x is going to be equal to the square root of 5 squared subtract 3 squared, which means square root 5 squared subtract 3 squared, and you get 4. Okay, so that's how Pythagoras work, and that's the first thing every time you come across a right angle and they ask you a question to find a missing side. If they ask for a missing side and you see a right angle triangle, if you know two of the sides, use one of these algorithms to find the answer. That is your go-to to find the answer. Okay, so When you step on from that, you step in then to the ratios. So I'm going to go through the ratios with you in the next video.